I have finally arrived to Cracow to take part in one of the workshops organized by Musical Theatre Poland. As everyone is warming up right now, because first classes are about to start, let me introduce two people that brought me to Poland: Ross Campbell and Johnathan Tweedie. Ross is a director and head of musical theatre and singing for Musical Theatre Ireland. He's a professor at the Royal Academy of Music and leading singing specialist in the training of singing voices. Johnathan Tweedie is a director for Musical Theatre Ireland as well, and he's one of the tutors here at the workshops. He's been working in the industry for over 2 decades as a performer, choreographer, and director. They both share the same passion, which is musical theatre. How did you become involved in the musical theatre?
I began in South Africa when I was about 5 years old and worked in children's theatre. They had a children's training course where you would do singing, dancing and acting, and whenever they would put on professional productions that children would be needed in, then they would come to this place, audition us, and then we'd join the shows. So I did that as a child. And then I went to the National School of the Arts, which is a performing arts high school for 5 years, where you do singing and dancing, acting, art or music. So I went down the acting path and I did the acting course for 5 years, in addition to all the other subjects, English, maths, biology. So it was very intense with the training. And then I worked in theatre in South Africa for a few years, and then took a short diversion and worked as a dancer for about 8 years in Irish dance shows, and then decided I wanted to go back into musical theatre. So I did my master's degree in musical theatre at the Guildford School of Acting. And in addition to all that, workshops, classes, I attend regular singing lessons, regular dance classes and acting classes. So for me it's always ongoing in terms of your training.
So I understand you're a director of Musical Theatre Ireland now. Can you tell me a little bit about that and why have you come to Poland?
Well, if I can just take you back to Ireland, yes, that's correct. I am a director of the Musical Theatre Ireland, based in Cork. That came about probably nearly 3 years ago when I was being invited to Dublin to lead a series of masterclasses for professionals in musical theatre, and also to work with teachers who wanted to cross from being classical teachers to being able to train musical theatre students and to understand how we manipulate our voices to change the quality from classical sounds to musical theatre sounds. And it became very clear to me very quickly that there was a little bit of a gap in good quality musical theatre training for people who wanted to become professionals in musical theatre in Ireland. That sort of intermediate advanced level did not seem to exist there, yet very talented people. So I began working with different people who could begin to make that happen, because obviously I don't live in Ireland, I live in the UK. So I needed people in Ireland to take that project forward. And so it did, and we ended up with Musical Theatre Ireland, and very successful it's been too, in terms of developing a full-time training course for a very small cohort of between 15 and 20 full-time students who were wanting to get into the profession, particularly in England. And through the work in Ireland, I made contacts with Musical Theatre Poland and have been invited over several times already to lead workshops and masterclasses for Musical Theatre Poland in Cracow. So that's the connection.
So what requirements are necessary for students to become a professional musical theatre?
For me, and I've always said this to my students, I believe that hard work and determination and respect are the most important things. You may start out with your training and not be a particularly good dancer or a singer or an actor. Those can always be worked on with constant training, but I believe at the very least you have to want to succeed, you have to want to get better. You've got to love what you do. You work incredibly long hours, the training is intense, it's incredibly hard both on the body and on the mind and the emotions. Performers are incredibly emotional people, and you need to be prepared for the hard work. There's a lot of rejection when you enter the industry, and so you need to have a tough skin as well to understand that you're not being judged on who you are, but on your skills and your ability. So there are a lot of prerequisites, I think, in terms of who you are as a person. I always respect a person that works hard, and I think that that's a very good starting block. After that, when you do enter the training, especially from a dance point of view, you need to keep yourself in good physical shape, you need to eat well, you need to be constantly practicing because there are always new developments in dance, singing and acting. You need to be keeping up with those. Research is important as well in terms of who's choreographing at the moment, who's directing. So there are a lot of things that you need to start out with, but at the very base level of it, you need to love musical theatre.
Obviously musical theatre has many disciplines, part of it to make up a musical theatre performer, and they would be dance, acting, singing and spoken voice, and with that lots of different accents. So quite a lot of work to do, and the normal route is to go on a 3-year degree course, and the UK has many of those at some of the most world-renowned drama colleges. But obviously America has some, and a few other countries have. But generally the UK is probably the top centre for training musical theatre performers. So generally a 3-year course, full-time, sort of 12-hour days, because you're having to develop skills in 4 different disciplines to a very high level. So there generally aren't enough hours in the day to do that over 3 years, but somehow we manage it. And then onwards, you can do more courses after that. Generally students would expect to do well in a public showcase, gain an agent from that, and then be put up for roles in the West End. And I'd say that I've got students in most West End musical theatre productions on a continuous basis.
So how do you think the musical theatre is popular now? Is it expanding or is it in recession?
There's always, in England, on the West End, people are always saying that the West End is dying, that it's going to disappear, that it's not doing as well as it always has. But it hasn't disappeared yet. There are times where work is harder to come by, and other times where there's so much work that you can pick and choose what it is you'd like to do. People always enjoy going to a musical because they can relax and enjoy themselves, and on the most part they're something light-hearted, so people can have a bit of an escape from the day.